Hey, everybody out there on YouTube. Welcome to the pre-show cocktail hour. I'm Jay. That's Aaron.
Hello.
And that's Tony.
Hello.
Later on, we're going to be talking about White House Plumbers. For now, I've got a mocktail for myself, if you can even call it that. I am sipping on a sparkling water, a La Croix Guava Sao Paulo, and it is delicious.
Sounds exotic.
But before we talk about the show today, I was interested to know, before coming into this show, what level of knowledge did you have over Watergate coming into this?
Yeah, that must be the biggest scandal since Watergate Gate.
Distant, and just like the fact that there was a cover-up with Nixon, like the actual... Like, I knew there was a break into the Watergate building. I knew that it was the DNC. And I knew that it was, quote unquote, at the direction of the president. But I was unaware of the intricacies of everything that went on.
Yeah, pretty much the same. Like, I knew enough to know if you said the Watergate scandal, I'd know what you were talking about. But I didn't know any of the players or besides, that it involved Nixon and the Democrats, basically. So I'm kind of glad that I didn't know more, because maybe I would have been influenced if I knew all the facts before watching.
Same.
Because it often seemed like in history class, especially American history class, it's like they spent all the time leading up to the Civil War, and it's like you came back from spring break and they were like, oh God, like we haven't even finished Reconstruction yet, so we gotta pack this in. And then by the end of the year, they're like, you know what, let's just watch Forrest Gump, and that's going to be how you learn.
That also might have just been the school you went to.
Texas. It might have just been Texas.
Yeah, Texas
we
schools.
Learned so much Texas history from when Texas was becoming independent in its own country to when it joined the U.S.
That's, worth an entire semester's worth of information, right?
Just
Equal
one?
to
It's
U.S.
like every
history?
year. No, it's just like, that's all you learn about is Texas history.
No, there was like one Texas history course. I remember taking it. I remember like having to do a project for it, and like I had to do you had to build like a cabin, and I like messed it up and like put way too much glue. So then I was like, oh, it's snow in Texas.
I remember making a whole bunch of salt dough recreations of the Alamo.
Yep. Or salt dough carvings of Texas.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Why were there so many dioramas in youth Texas school? Always building some sort of diorama. They have the toothpicks out.
I feel like the older I get, the more I realize people have just been faking it the whole time. And it's like, like when I think back on those types of things, it's like somebody was like, oh, what are we going to do for like education? I don't know. Make a diorama. I
had a TA in college who was, he was teaching us Spanish, and we went out drinking with him on a weekday. And then he shows up to class the next day and he writes a list of nouns on the chalkboard, and he goes, we're not having class today. Just go out and take pictures of what these words are. And then he went and took a nap in his office. And that was class that day. So yeah, I think everybody's just faking it.
I remember I had it was a World Lit class or something like that. And it was right around the time that World of Warcraft Wrath of Lich King came out. And we had a dude that just missed that whole week. And the next week he shows up and like he sits down and the teacher's just like, so what level did you get to? And the dude was like, huh? And he like looks at him and I was like, yeah, of course this teacher plays World of Warcraft. He's a World Lit professor. He's like, what level did you get to? He's like, level cap? And he's like, okay, yeah. Well, we read these different chapters. You need to keep up. He's like, I'm not cutting you any slack.
Well, shall we start the show?
Yeah.
Let's get it.
Let's get it.
Previously on the show.
Alrighty. So, first a clap.
3, 2, 1, clap, not 3, 2, clap.
Right. I'll count you down from 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, clap.
Yep.
So, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I definitely fucked that up. Let's just do it again.
Yeah, somebody clap before me.
No, I did. It was Tony had me all into my head, man. Like you don't. We've never done it on the one ever. And when you said that, I was like, now I'm gonna fuck this up.
I don't know what this scientist that makes flavors, a flavorologist or something. I don't know if that's real, but
It is not our responsibility to tell them that they've been eating people.
well, if they don't change the story for the second game, I hope they never make a second season because the second game story is just not good.
Every time we've had run-ins with people out in the wild, most times it just immediately launches into violence. Like, people don't say, "Hey, howdy, howdy, traveler, are you friend or foe?" Like, they just immediately start shooting or throwing rocks at each other.
You can find me individually at jsuespante. Aaron, where can we find you?
Well, you can no longer apparently block me on Twitter, so you can find me there at Tenacious Aaron. So.
Just you or everybody?
Apparently, no, you just can't be blocked anymore. Like, that's what they're changing it to. So we're all going to get to see all of the hateful things on the internet together.
Wow. Great. No one ever harasses anybody, I'm sure. Either.
Nobody. That's never going to be a bad idea.
Well, where can we harass you, Tony?
I liked it, but I think it's a little bit of nostalgia from the game. I really, really liked the game. It was maybe the best story in the game I'd played up to that point.
I kind of want to now rewatch The Leftovers.
Let me think of another one while
He's gonna think of another one. We're not doing the
idol.
idol.
Oh, did I scare you away with all the fucking?
Tell me, who watched the second season of Mosquito Coast?
Nope, we're moving on. Hello, and welcome to the Show, probably the world's best TV review podcast. Welcome to episode 61. Today we review the 2023 Madcap Buddy spy series from HBO. These hookers were looking forward to it. This month on the Show, White House Plumbers. I'd like to welcome you inside the broadcast booth. I'm Jay. I am joined as always by my two Hall of Famers. To my left, a man who once sent me Che Guevara's hands in a box. It's Aaron Hunt.
That is correct.
And to my right, a man who sells aluminum siding and definitely knows what the hell a blizzard is. It's Tony Liddy.
Hello.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Happy to be here.
To our listeners, check out our Instagram for news about the show, including our still postponed 2024 tour and cruise, along with plenty of other bonus content. You can find us at the Show Pod. You can send your emails to the Show TV podcast at gmail.com. You can find our YouTube page, Mandamus Radio. You can find me individually at jsuespante. Aaron, where can we find you?
On the Muscoverse at Tenacious Aaron. I also won't be responding on Threads. So if you want to try and
loyal to the Muscoverse.
No, I'm saying that generally I don't respond on Twitter or the new Threads, which I will also be on. So if you need to get in touch with me, probably neither of those services.
How about you, Tony? Where can we not get in touch with you?
You cannot find me on Instagram at tpinquite. Although the only people that seem to find me are the spam accounts, so someone's finding me.
That's true. But I do have an Instagram now because I had to have that to have Threads. And it was funny. It was like when I created when I was still in school, and then I was like, oh, these pictures are garbage. So I just deleted everything. Like they were actual like pictures of garbage.
This for an art class.
Do you know what your handle is on Insta?
Not off the top of my head. Next time I will.
Next time we'll hit you up. All right.
Yeah, never say the full Instagram again. It's Insta.
Well, Insta.
Now that you're
I
on
regret
it.
this.
Yeah, now that you're on it.
The absolute like base algorithm with having nothing and not liked anything at all was basically just car wrecks and like, girls dancing. Like that was all it was. I was like, what is going on? It's like, well, you are a male of the mid 30s, so you obviously want to see girls dancing in car wrecks. I was like, man, people are fucked up.
Any particular type of girls dancing?
Just, TikTok dancing. That's what everything is now.
Okay.
That's not where my mind went when you said girls dancing, but
Oh, well, I just assumed that was the same for everybody.
Well, tell me more about where your mind went, Tony.
I was thinking not a TikTok dance. I was thinking of a sultry dance.
Is that not what TikTok dancing is?
When I imagine TikTok dancing, I imagine like those sneaking, like they're like almost scripted, kind of like Macarena type dancing that little kids do. Maybe that's
all of the
showing my
above.
age.
No, I think
Yeah.
it's all of the above at this point.
There's a lot out there.
People like to dance and film themselves dancing.
Well, last time around, we had some big news about our distribution system. We were very happy to announce that we were going to be on Stitcher. And I don't know if you've seen the news, but Stitcher is folding next month.
They crashed under the server load from the announcement.
Yeah, all you guys went and rushed it. They did not have the infrastructure ready. So
Exactly. SiriusXM, who owns Stitcher, they were basically the Ocean Gate submersible, and our following, our loyal following here, was the ocean. So
Yeah, we were the Titanic, I guess, in this analogy.
Yeah. Everybody want to swim with us. Well, very sorry about you, Stitcher, but to all the other platforms who still are happy to host us, we say thank you, and eventually, who knows where you'll be able to find us. But we will be making this show long after all these tech companies have gone by the wayside.
And long after anybody wants us to. We're just going to keep doing it.
was Stitcher just like we put your stuff on everyone else's like platform?
As far as I know, Stitcher was mostly just a pod catching app, like any of the others. It was kind of a fan favorite. Like people who like podcasts tended, when you ask them, what app do you use to listen to your podcast? The answer was a lot of times Stitcher, especially for Android users. But I don't really know what happens. I think that exactly what we do here right now is what they would have called a loss leader back when I worked at Best Buy, where the people who host our podcast are losing money on us, and we're very grateful to them for that. But there's, we're kind of at their mercy in that way.
Well, that makes sense, but at the same time, I guess I assume there's a ton of different podcasting apps out there now. It's like, again, even like Spotify has got a piece of the pie now.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, sorry about Stitcher, but you can continue to find us on plenty of other places. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, I think Breaker, Overcast, Radio Public, plenty of others, CastBox. But before we talk about White House Plumbers, let's take a little trip over to the unofficial scoreboard to see what unofficially have you guys been doing lately.
I have completed the new Zelda game.
Whoa.
Ooh.
And at least the story, it has so much content chucked into it that to get 100% on it is something I'm not worth doing. It's just not worth my time. But to play through the story and experience all the different stuff in it was phenomenal. I give it a 9 out of 10. I think it's worthy of Game of the Year considerations, and would recommend to anyone who ever played Zelda or likes to kind of design or build things in a sandbox, because there's definitely a lot of that in it now, or loves just puzzle games. Like if you love puzzles, Zelda is phenomenal. The puzzles are amazing. But it was a thrilling experience. I had a great time with it, and finished off the game and was like, you know what? I don't need to continue playing this anymore. I can put this down now. But I give it, 9 out of 10. One of the better experiences of playing through a solo game. And especially one that didn't have like a whole bunch of like, buy this extra content, buy these cosmetics, buy this other stuff that we're selling to you also.
Yeah.
It's kind of getting a little bit like every game's a mobile app game that's trying to upsell you on shit. So it was refreshing to have a Nintendo game that, charged you $70, but then was like, that's all. There isn't any more.
Yeah, and it's not a live service or something.
Yep. In this day and age where everything's a subscription now, or everything has got something to like sell you, it was nice to just kind of completely immerse myself in the story and the game, in the puzzles, and I don't know, just kind of break from that kind of gaming for a while.
Where would you say that it ranks in the pantheon of the Zelda franchise?
To me, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask are two of my all-time favorite Zelda games. I would put this up there with Ocarina. I think it's that level of quality. I think that of the three best ones, I'd say probably Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, and I'd put Tears of the Kingdom up there with those three.
Fair enough. How about you, Tony? What you been doing?
I think I finally grinded my way through Diablo 4 far enough along to where, I've kind of stopped. I was playing that about every day, but now I'm just pulled. I got to level 89.
Ooh.
Which supposedly, the XP is so exponential. Like, once you hit level 85, you're only halfway to level 100. I guess those last 15 are as much as the first 85.
Yep.
As far as XP requirements. So, and there's... I guess the main source of content is going to be seasons, which require a new character to play. So, kind of hit the point where I'm done with that character because I'm just going to start a new character. But still enjoyed it. I'm just taking a break now, slowing way down.
Yeah, I got through with the story and got to level 53, 54 Paragon, and they started talking about the seasons being at the beginning of August, and I was like, Yeah,
I think July 20th is the start of...
July 20th, so it's not even to August. So I was like, I think I'm going to wait.
It's a good plan.
Do you think the Blood Knight thing, I haven't read much into it, do you think it's going to be cool?
I think it's only coming to the mobile game, like Diablo Immortal.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was a new class added to Diablo, that they were adding a new class. If it was just the mobile game. I think
it's just Diablo Immortal, which is the mobile version.
I am not gonna lie, I had a lot of fun playing it, the free version of Diablo Immortal. It, though, very much became buy this as much as possible. I
heard it's another classic example of it's actually a great game, but just the microtransactions have basically ruined it. Yeah.
Jay, what have you been up to?
It's middle of summer, and I was very lucky. I got to go spend a week on the beach.
This episode of Bluey is cool. The beach!
With my family and with my lady wife's family, and it was just absolutely lovely to get to just relax in the sun and the sand and the sea. And I'm not really a big seafood guy, never really have been, but whenever I go to the coast, I try to take advantage as much as possible. And I think based on previous eating experience with the two of you guys, I think I already know the answer, but are either of you fans of eating oysters?
I am not.
That's a negatory for me.
Yeah. I don't know, I've gotten the bug. I tried them for the first time last year when we went down to this same beach place. But this time, I got back 2 weeks ago, and I'm still thinking about these oysters. I can't get enough. So, any listeners out there, if you want to go get some oysters, at the Show Pods, you know where to find me.
Were you at the Gulf, or did you go to one of the coasts?
Yeah, on the Gulf Shores, Alabama.
Nice.
Really beautiful turquoise, emerald green water, clear stuff, nice white sandy beaches. Really had a good time. But TV-wise, one show that I have been watching that's new and coming out is season 3 of The Righteous Gemstones.
Who wants to suck an old man's dick?
Oh, yeah? Is it better than season 2?
Yes, I would say better than season 2. Between season 1 and season 2, I'd say they've dialed back the ridiculousness a little bit. It's a little bit more restrained, especially Judy. And Judy's actually they've all got good stories going. So I'm very hopeful for the rest of the season there. So if you were anybody out there, if you're fans of Righteous Gemstones, definitely check out season 3. But from the Righteous Gemstones to Project Gemstone.
Oh, that's good.
You guys want to talk Watergate?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it. We have gathered here today to talk about the 2023 HBO series White House Plumbers. This is a pretty short, sweet 5-episode mini-series. I think You might call it a limited series nowadays, starring the great JT and the great Woody Harrelson, along with plenty of other great Hollywood stars. It follows two of the White House plumbers. They were Nixon's henchmen running up to the 1972 presidential election. The name comes from they were brought in to stop the leaks, stop the information going out to the press after the release of the Pentagon Papers, which had embarrassed the United States government and especially the Johnson administration in that it revealed to the public that they had been lied to about the Vietnam War. So this show follows our two leads, E. Howard Hunt and G. Gordon Liddy, that at least this show makes look like the two most cartoonish characters of the whole operation. But we follow them starting with their break-in of the Pentagon Papers leakers psychiatrist's office in Beverly Hills. We follow them through the Watergate break-in, the arrest of the burglars, their trial, some of their jail time, and it becomes a very interesting study in power and loyalty and what's really important to a person. So I'm not really sure where to start on this show, you guys. Where do we go from here?
I guess me and Aaron already said how familiar or unfamiliar we were with the details, but when I was watching it, especially, I feel like there's a tonal shift in episode 4, maybe, where it's just like the first 3 are just, the characters just so cartoonishly incompetent and like bigger than life, and then it gets really like serious. And I almost think I enjoyed the serious, like the last 2 episodes where it was actually a serious drama almost the most. But just watching it, I was telling my friend, I was like, if like even half of this is like accurate, because we know it's historical fiction, I was like, the incompetence here is just like insane. Like, I can't believe it.
I thoroughly struggled with this show. It was the longest 5 episodes of my life. The level of cringe that came from the incompetence and the caricature nature of the performances by Justin Theroux and Woody Harrelson was tough for me to swallow. I really, really, really disliked the first 3 episodes. Like, actively, like, was in pain through the first 3. The last 2, like Tony says, were much more palatable. It was interesting with Mrs. Hunt's demise. That was rather unexpected. And kind of all the conspiracy stuff surrounding that. I knew nothing about that. That was historically interesting. But I really, really struggled with those first 3 episodes. I really, really struggled with Justin Theroux's performance. The funny thing is, the vinyl he put on, I have that vinyl. The
Hitler speech?
The Hitler speech. So, like, the funny story, I was at Half Price Books. I'm looking through, like, new stuff that came in, and I find this, and I turn it over, and I'm like, what on earth is this? And it's like, oh, these are recordings that were found in a bombed out radio station in Germany after the war. And it's a bunch of songs and speeches from Hitler. The songs are like children singing war songs and soldiers singing. And then, like, the very last track are the not guilty pleas of the officers at the Nuremberg trials. And, like, I got it because it was like $2 and it's a piece of history. But, like, when he pulled it out, I was like, I know exactly what that is. And then it started playing. I was like, oh, gosh. So loud. Oh.
Yeah. How many times have you played it for your dinner guests?
Never. Not once. Never. I think one time I showed it to my grandmother, who loves to read all the World War II, like, stuff. She's obsessed with World War II. So she thought that was interesting. But outside of that, I don't think it's ever been put on.
Yeah, I was aware of the name G. Gordon Liddy and knew that it was associated very closely with Watergate. I don't think I'd ever heard of Howard Hunt before, but the the cringe of Gordon Liddy and all the Nazi stuff was driving me crazy.
It was rough. Like, whenever he was like, they're still inspiring, speeches.
And I think there's an extra level of meta cringe that whenever I would get that inkling in my head of like, this can't be real, I've got to look this up. Every time it was real.
Whenever he gets the Jewish guy a kosher meal and begins to do the Hitler salute.
Like him singing the Nazi anthem as he's going into prison. That happened. That's real. And him talking about the Hindenburg going over his house and being beaten up as a kid for being German. That's all true to life. And so when we talk about the incompetence showed in this show, I think to me, that just makes it so much funnier because they didn't even have to ham it up. They, like you said, I think Justin Theroux here gives us a hammy performance that I loved, but it was over the top.
Also, I didn't know this, but this is based on a book written by Bud Krogh, which they mentioned in the story. We never saw him on screen, but there was some mention of him taking over like a department. I think it was Department of Transportation. I'm not quite sure, but he also went down. He went to jail for the Watergate stuff.
Yeah, they're saying he wouldn't take a plea or something like that at the very end. I feel like that's the guy that wouldn't take a plea.
I will say, what is it? Woody Harrelson, whenever he did decide to come forward, little late.
Little late.
I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, after you killed Kennedy and all that.
Do you think that Harrelson took this job because of the rumors about his dad being in Dallas and being associated with the killing of Kennedy?
I didn't even hear those.
So his dad was like, died in jail. He I think attempted to assassinate a federal judge.
I think he succeeded.
He succeeded? Okay.
Yeah.
And he spent the rest of his life in jail, but apparently in jail he admitted that he was in Dallas when JFK was shot. Is what I remember reading.
Have you heard that he might be Matthew McConaughey's brother?
I have heard that.
And once you like look at their faces, you're like, you know what? I
can see it.
I can see this. Yeah.
I thought he did a great job, Woody Harrelson. Lena Headey killed it.
Yeah, she did.
Stole the show in episode 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially in the last few episodes, she was outrageously good.
Like that moment with the payphone where they're like, we don't want to talk to you. We want to talk to your wife. Oh man. Like for such a macho guy in 1972, that's got to be such a slap in the face. For
sure. I mean, by the end of it, I feel pity for was it Howard Hunt? I just the whole situation at the end. Mm-hmm. No, it felt miserable for everybody. But again, this was wild. Like, why would you do this? I think one of the things that got me the most was whenever somebody was like, you're like 30 points ahead in the polls. Why would you do anything?
Yeah.
It's surprising that it wasn't called off at all or postponed or anything.
Well, it seems like, I feel like this is one of those problems with some people who are like, I can't just win. I have to crush the other side. Right? Like, it feels like you got to do everything possible to win. And I think that's kind of what was wrong with Nixon is even though he was well liked and he was popular and people were voting for him, he couldn't just let that go. Like, he had to continue on and take out the Democrats.
That was good.
Watched a lot of Futurama.
If only he had Dr. Manhattan, he would have got reelected no problem. Because he would have won the Vietnam War.
It's true.
51st state.
Mm-hmm.
Still should have been the 52nd. Puerto Rico still should have been 51st.
But this is where I wish that I had arranged for a history expert to join us, because I'd really like to understand a little more fully what people were so afraid of at that time. Like, what was so bad about the the freaking Johnson administration.
Let's see if you can't leave me about an inch from where the zipper ends, round under my back to my bunghole.
That Richard Nixon, this very obviously slippery motherfucker, is your savior.
I'll tell you exactly what this is. So
go for it.
There is a moment where at the end there's kind of some realistic discussion between, I think, the daughter, like she kind of blurts out, like, just because McGovern has some leftist views doesn't mean it makes him a communist. And I think it's the conflating between any type of leftist view and communism, right? It's an oversimplification. Everything that Liddy and Hunt are doing, like, it's just because the liberals or the left are more leftist than, they are. So therefore they're more like the communist. And again, it's a rationale that has been used for many, many times, many years, many situations. And it's still used today. Very much so. So to me, I don't know if this was kind of supposed to be like this is kind of the genesis of this type of thinking, but absolutely, like hippies, leftists, anyone, because you got to remember all the like revolutions down in Latin America, they're all leftist revolutions, right? So you've got all that context of what they're kind of couching in. You also have that weird leftist terrorist group in the 70s or 60s called the Weathermen Underground, which that was like the guy who was it something Ayers that like had some weird association with Obama that everybody freaked out about. But they like blew up some buildings or something, and they were leftists, and they were like, oh, it was the winds of change, because you don't need to be a weatherman to tell that there's a leftist revolution coming to America. And instead we got Nixon. So yeah. So like I feel like those are the kind of like the context of what's going on when this is happening. And so it's not really Johnson. It's more that McGovern was more left than Johnson. And he was the new kind of face of the Democratic Party at that point in time.
Yeah, that's definitely how the show presents it here. It feels like it's really pinning the blame on political polarization, where once you've divided yourself into your two camps and decided that the other side aren't people, well, it doesn't really matter what they're actually saying. All that matters to you is what you think they're saying.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's kind of American politics. Like, even if you go back to like the first election after George Washington, I'm pretty sure that like Thomas Jefferson's just like shitting all over George Washington. Like in the newspaper, he's like, this motherfucker over here gave way too much away in the peace treaty. Like, this is some bullshit. We need to come in and clean house. Like, have
you tried his ale? It's weak.
Sam Adams probably has better ale. So
yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm telling you, if you go read some of the like things that were being published during that time, it is cutthroat. Like, I feel like politics, it's something that we don't really recognize. Like, right now, it's very polarized. I have a feeling that it's always been polarized, and we just don't realize it. Like, I feel like there's always been this level of polarization, because like this, the whole, like, the other side are basically communist. That feels very familiar to today. And you go back to anti-federalists and the federalists, and they're basically like, they want to be a king. They want to have kings again, So I feel like you're just going to have polarization any era. There's going to be something that humans decide to divide on.
I feel like something was lost when Trump won. Like, some sort of, like, unwritten, like, modicum of decorum between political, like, opponents was, like, even though they did, like, trash campaigns or, like, smear campaigns, like, I feel like there was still some sort of something that existed that now no longer exists at all, at least in America's side.
I agree that there was a aspect of civility, but I mean, here's the thing. Like, I think the problem is that no, there wasn't. We all just imagined it. And the reason why is, aren't there like people beating each other up in the Senate, like in the 1800s? Like, I don't know, there's a whole lot of fist fights breaking out, but that doesn't seem very civil either. Like, I feel like I agree there's been a degradation of like civility within public life, but I also feel like there's been a much larger expansion of public life than there ever has been, right? Like if you were president, yeah, you gave public speeches, but you had to ride around and give that same speech 400 times, right? Like you didn't just give it once and they recorded it and showed it to everybody. Like that had to be like written down, passed around, something like that, so everybody knew what you said. So like public life now is all the time. And so that barrier between private and public, I feel like has like eroded over the past 20 years. And Trump just kind of is like naturally pushed through that paper thin barrier now, especially in the era of, you know, reality television and things like that. And he's a reality TV star, right? So he knows that people want to see behind the curtain, to see the crude, the crass, the things that people do that you're not supposed to see in public, right? And that gets the the masses frothing at the mouth. So to me, Trump is playing with that barrier between, you know, what is like public and what is profane, and he is doing it to his benefit a lot of times. I don't think he's as good as it was back in 2016, but again, I think that that's a big part of what he's doing.
I feel like before you just had to like avoid and sidestep the hard questions you didn't want to answer, and now all you have to say is fake news and woke, and then you don't even have to like avoid the question or think of an answer. You just say one of those two things, and then then you don't even have to do anything.
To some extent, and to some voters, you're right. But that also, when you say that, there are people who are immediately like, "Oh, that's what kind of person you are," right? So if someone's like woke, like I would just be like, "Oh, I know who I'm not voting for."
I think the difference between Trump and what came before Trump is that, like, Trump would still have his guys do Project Gemstone, and they would probably be just as bumbling as these guys were. But the difference is he wouldn't even bother covering it up.
People wouldn't be mad. People would cheer.
Yeah, if he got caught, he'd just be like, "Whoa, look at what the Democrats are doing to me. Can you believe that they're doing way worse things to me?"
Whenever I don't know which one of the scandals, but one of Trump's scandals, I remember John Oliver referred to it as dumb Watergate, and the entire time I just kept declaring Watergate was dumb Watergate. Like I thought this was something where like they got away with it and then got caught whenever like the president, you know, messed up. No, this whole fucking thing was stupid.
Was Deep Throat one of the characters that we met, or we still don't know who Deep Throat was?
That's what I was gonna say. Deep Throat. That whole part of this like was not even mentioned. I thought that's how the tapes came out.
Yeah, I guess we kind of avoided that part of it. We hadn't got to the tapes being released yet, or
right. That was later. We really didn't get into the cover up in this show because the cover up was extensive throughout the FBI, the CIA, the tapes, and all that. That all really happens outside of what we see in this show. I think we're with the guys in prison when that's happening.
Yeah. Also, who put all those guys together in prison? Why does that make sense?
That was weird. I was like, oh, you just get to hang out with your buddies in your own little cell block?
Like, is this Trailer Park Boys? Like, are they going to start a hockey team and play the guards? Like,
I will say this. It was interesting to see, like, the Bay of Pigs references and stuff like that. Man, these guys really hated Kennedy.
Fuck Kennedy! Fuck Kennedy!
Like,
yeah.
That's the problem, I think, is also a lot of this stuff, I didn't understand the context outside of just generic Americana. Like, Bay of Pigs, something with Cuba, we didn't succeed. Right? So, I don't know enough. I have not paid enough attention to the stuff in that time frame to know exactly what happened. I know that I think Kennedy came in right as we were about to do it, and he just kind of pulled the U.S. troops out, so it was just the Cubans who were going in, and they failed.
And that's one of those events that it feels like, just like Watergate, like kind of gets glossed over more than it should. Because there's so much political American history that's happening right now that all goes back to the Bay of Pigs. You know, with Florida being such an important state for the Electoral College and the Cuban population that's in Florida, that's integral to getting that vote to winning the presidency. And they're all still pissed off about the Bay of Pigs and pissed off at Kennedy.
And Obama for making nice with Cuba for, 4 years.
Right. And like they say that, that's what swung the election to Bush in 2000. It's the effects are still very much.
But did that get us Ana de Armas somehow?
I don't even know who that is.
Well, you should find out.
She was the girl in the first Knives Out.
Yeah. She's the latest. I don't even know what to call her, a Bond girl. She was in the latest Bond movie.
Yeah, she's kind of like the hot in Hollywood right now.
She's like a rising star, but she's done too many Netflix movies lately. Which I feel like has cooled down.
Did you watch that one with the Chris, who was also in Knives Out?
That's like her third movie, because they also did that one with, it was like Ryan Gosling, and I think Chris Evans was the bad guy in that one, and she was like a secret agent in that one. Like the Gray Man or something. And then I saw there's one where it's like, yeah, her and Chris Evans like her boyfriend or something, and she's a secret agent. I guess she's going action roles, because I think she's supposed to be in like a John Wick universe type spin-off movie.
I think though, like when you're hot, you got to take all the contracts you can, right? Because if you don't, and then all of a sudden you burn out, then what do you got left? Like I feel like there's a lot of people who like, she could be going the Nick Cage route where she's just trying to make as much money as possible and do as many movies as possible.
I feel like people should do that more, and then just
just
get out when the getting's good. It's like athletes should do that more. I feel like just while you can still walk without arthritis in all of your joints and concussions, like just, you got the millions of dollars. Hopefully you were smart with it. You can live a nice life.
It's like the guy who's in Machete, Danny Trejo. He's like in everything.
Nick Cage is making that comeback, or he seemed like he was about to make a comeback.
I think he's made the comeback. He did that one movie that everybody's memeing off of with, what's his name from Last of Us?
Pedro Pascal.
Yeah. Pedro Pascal he plays a murderer very well. And apparently he's such an old man, he didn't even understand the meme. Like someone had to show him.
I thought he understood it.
Well, no, I saw
the meme, like where
like somebody was like, there's a meme of you guys. He's like, what do you mean? And he's like, they showed it to him. He's like, oh, that's funny. In a very Nick Cage way.
That is a movie only Nick Cage could have made. Where he's like, he's playing himself in like a meme version of a movie. I don't really know who else could pull that off.
I feel really bad for Nick Cage, because didn't he get like bamboozled out of all of his money and he like was in super debt, so he had to make 400 horrible movies?
I believe that is the case, yeah.
I think it was a combination of bamboozlement along with just poor choices. Like I think he kept buying dinosaur bones for no reason.
Well, maybe he thought that one day he could become a dinosaur. You never know. Genetics.
This reminded me of Step Brothers.
Yeah.
You want to know, dude? I used to run around my backyard, stomping. See, I can't, I've lost it.
And then one day my dad said, Bobby, you're 17. It's time to throw childish things aside. And I said, okay, Pop. But he didn't really say that. He said, stop being a fucking dinosaur and get a job.
Pretty soon you're going to be able to just like AI Nick Cage into all your favorite movies.
Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Has anyone seen Indiana Jones? Well, I don't want to get too far off topic, but has anyone seen the new Indiana Jones?
Have not.
No, I have not.
The reviews I've seen haven't been good.
He's like 80 years old, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I heard that this Indiana Jones cost more than all of the previous ones put together.
Wow.
Yeah, but is that adjusted for inflation and time and all that? Or is it like the numbers back in the 80s and stuff like that?
I think it's just numbers.
Well, but that matters.
It's kind of like
right?
25% or like, what is it like? There's some sort of, there's like 25% of the money in the history of the world is printed in like the last 1 or 2 years or something.
Exactly. See, like the numbers, it's all relative. Everything's relative. That's what Einstein taught us.
All right. White House plumbers. Yeah.
Well, Nixon taught me that truth is relative.
That's possibly also true. Well, I I don't know. Like for me, this one was rough. I really struggled through it, and there were great performances, and obviously Max or HBO or whatever they don't want to pay their writers under now did a great job making the show. But man, it was just such a heavy lean into cringe for those first 3 episodes that I appreciate how bumbling and ridiculous these people were, but it almost felt like I don't want to feel pity for these people. You know what I mean? And I felt like it was almost too much. Like it was almost like trying to make me feel bad for how stupid they were. And no.
It was hard to reconcile like some of the like obviously smart cover up ideas they had. Like they were obviously smart enough to like wipe stuff down, and the main characters at least would pull off the tape and like they would think about things like, oh, this could be traced back. We should destroy this part. I was like, okay, obviously they have brains, so why aren't they using them in other ways?
Yeah, I think that you only have any amount of sympathy for Woody Harrelson only because Justin Theroux is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
With Gordon Liddy standing by Nixon, deluding himself into thinking that he's going to get some sort of powerful appointment after Nixon gets reelected. You know, I don't think that if you just see Howard Hunt's story, you don't have any sympathy for him at all. But once you have that foil of Gordon Liddy, it opens up just that little bit of, well, you know, he's a family man, and he finally makes the right decision, but like you said, way too late.
He has to be forced into it by his daughter. But even then, I think this is my problem, is like the first things that happen let you know what's like how far Liddy's willing to go. You say no, fuck off multiple times to Liddy, but then are always convinced by him. At some point, you have to, you know, you are responsible for allowing yourself to be convinced by Gordon Liddy, right? Because I feel like, even like him trying to make sure that Liddy was taken care of and they pay for him. He's like, it's because she's my partner. Like, you're in this mess because of him.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So, I don't know. To me, it's hard for me to have any pity even for him, because it's like you continually chose to put yourself in this situation. And you could have walked away. And again, taking pictures of yourself with CIA cameras. Just stupid.
How about the bit where Gordon Liddy was essentially Gene Parmesan from Arrested Development, where he would just appear from behind a tree in a full suit? Or he's wearing those crazy ass wigs.
Mm-hmm. I believe it too.
Oh yeah. But especially in I think it was episode 4, when Justin Theroux's at the golf course talking to the now Attorney General, and he just appears from behind the tree. God,
he knew he was going to slice it into that little thicket.
Because it was a lot of fun to watch. Like the first 3 episodes were like a bumbling spy movie. Like if Mr. Bean worked for the CIA.
Mm-hmm. I feel like Mr. Bean, everything would have worked out though. Mm-hmm. Like
he would have been more successful.
He would have been accidentally successful.
Like the cops would have let him go. They would have been like, oh, he's obviously here for his meeting with with the Federal Reserve or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, we're here for a meeting at 10 o'clock at night. That's realistic.
They did a good job on the propaganda, because they're blaming that guy. It really was almost everything that guy's fault. He couldn't get, his equipment didn't work, and he kept making all these mistakes. He basically is the reason they all got caught. Was that guy Monken or something like that? What was that guy?
The one that was the private security firm?
Yeah, that sold them all out at the trial.
McCord.
Yeah.
I cannot fit him in.
Yeah, in real life, Gordon Liddy claimed that he was set up by McCord and Hunt. Which I think is what you have to say when it's revealed just how incompetent you are.
Yeah.
I just clicked on Liddy, and on the top of his Wikipedia page it says that in his later years he did debates with Timothy Leary on college campuses. Mm-hmm. And then worked with Al Franken in the 90s.
Yeah, he was a Fox News commentator. He was a radio host for a long time. Crazy to think that anybody would want to hear what he had to say.
He died in 2021. 90.
Well, he kept himself in great shape.
Yeah, he's always doing those push-ups.
He was kind of a Dr. Jacoby in later life.
Yeah.
They had to get our boy JT without a shirt on, didn't they?
Is that a complaint?
No, I still got a man crush from Leftovers, but I was like, I didn't know if like that guy actually exercised that much, or if they're like, well, Justin Theroux's kind of ripped. Do we have to show this guy working out all the time?
It's like how it's in Matthew McConaughey's contract that he's going to have to be shirtless at some point.
Yeah.
There were a lot of great cameos of people in this show.
Oh, yeah. Liddy's wife, Judy Greer, one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
One of my absolute favorites. Also, McCord, played by Toby Huss. Another one of those great that guys. And maybe most famous as the voice of Cotton Hill on King of the Hill.
John Carroll Lynch, which played the Attorney General. That's the guy who played Drew Carey's brother in the Drew Carey Show.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it from the comedic part, but I don't know if I liked Justin Theroux's Liddy, like, as a role for him, personally. I don't know. Maybe he just did, I don't know. I don't want to keep talking about Leftovers. Like, maybe he just did so good on the Leftovers that I'm just like, every time I see him in another role, I just compare it and I'm like, I don't really like it as much.
I think I like him better as a serious actor.
Yeah.
Although comparing this to Mosquito Coast, I don't know what I could say. That was pretty serious. It was seriously bad too.
I think he just needs a good writer, I think, is what he needs.
I don't disagree.
My lady wife made an interesting observation about this show where she said that it was almost refreshing the lack of sexuality that was in it. That
That's a good point.
You know, it's an HBO show. It's almost like that goes hand in hand with some boobs, and we didn't have any because it wasn't necessary.
Wasn't part of the story. I guess they could have, like, they were flirting with the stewardess. They could have done something, but I guess all he did was send a book to her.
With White House stationery.
Ugh, gosh.
It was a different time. You know, you just... you didn't have to be as careful about anything, apparently.
So you had a stationery made for our black op?
Yeah, braggadocious. People have always been braggadocious.
Well, supposedly the name White House Plumbers came from a conversation that somebody was having with a family member, and then Gordon Liddy put up a sign in their office, and after a couple days, somebody was like, "Gordon, we're a secret, we're a Black Ops organization. Nobody's supposed to know that we even exist, so we had to take it down, but the name stuck."
Yeah, it's. These are the things that made me cringe because it's real. That's even worse.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to, in probably not even 30 years, but I look forward to the political satire that looks back at our current political climate, because I really hope we get to a place where we can laugh at it.
That would be nice.
I hope we don't continue down the path of setting books on fire. So.
Well, would you like to give this show some ratings?
Let's do it.
Yes, but how many blown up 737s does it deserve?
I'll lead off, and I'm going to give this show 6 blown up 737s because I love history, I love politics, and I love Justin Theroux. I also really love Woody Harrelson. So this just had everything for me. So subjectively, my enjoyment of this is really more like a 9. But as we've kind of examined here, the show, it kind of had an uneven tone, and it didn't quite know what it was doing sometimes. But man, did I enjoy it. So 6 out of 10 exploded 737s from me. How about you, Tony?
Yeah, I think I had 6 in my head before you said that. I am curious, like, I wonder what, if it was all as serious as the last 2 episodes, what it would have been like. I liked it because I learned, like, I had almost no knowledge versus just the super basic information, so I enjoyed, like I knew it was historical fiction, but I was like, I don't think they can just, like, make this stuff up. It must be mostly true or halfway true, and that was surprising and interesting to learn. I think they did nail the length. I think it's really helped that it's only 5 roughly hour-long episodes, even shorter than an hour. So that was like short and sweet. I didn't hate the funny parts. Did enjoy the more serious parts more, but yeah, a 6. I'm not gonna tell people to run out and watch it, but it was well done. It was like HBO quality, I feel like.
I honestly think Nixon was probably behind Hunt's wife's downing. That one scene whenever the guy looked back at her on the airplane, that was uncomfortable and never answered, and I couldn't find anything on it.
Well, that's got to be all. That part's got to be completely fiction, right? Because everyone died on the plane, and you don't know what.
The CBS reporter was also on the plane. Like that's also true. And apparently there was one other person involved with the Watergate scandal that was also on that plane. But again, flights flying to, I think, Washington. People got to get places. Anyways, I would say that this show I really struggled with. I don't know if I'm just like particularly sensitive to cringe right now or what, but I really struggle with some of the moments of discomfort, like watching from the other room or through the reflection on the pictures on the wall. I'm probably coming to a 4 because historically it was interesting to find out how incompetent these people were. It honestly made me feel a little bit better about how incompetent the modern era is. Like people haven't changed that much, really. I don't know. To me, I really struggled with Theroux and Harrelson's performance. Like, I can recognize that they put their all into it, but I just didn't like it. And maybe it's just the characters themselves I didn't like, and they did such a good job of portraying them that I actively disliked the characters. But I don't know. I had a rough time watching this one. I'll be just honest. I don't understand what's funny about the uncomfortable situations just hanging. Like I don't laugh at them. I don't giggle. I just sit there in pain waiting for it to end. And these shows, they just let them linger for way too long. I really struggle. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone other than someone that's like, oh, I love cringe humor. I think it's great. And they also like political history stuff. That would be the only person I'd recommend it to, but for me, it's a 4.
Yeah, that's fair. If you're not on board with cringe and history, this is not going to be a fun 5 hours for you.
I love history. That for me, though, like the having my face dragged across hot coals to get the history lesson out of it wasn't really what I wanted to do.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we've got 6, 6, and 4. That gives us a composite score of 5.3 repeating. And on our master ranking, that puts it rather low. It's probably top of the bottom 25%, just below Umbrella Academy, just above Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. One of your favorites, Aaron.
I struggle with that one as well.
I've heard great things about that one.
People loved it. I apparently am no longer in sync with comedy. That is what I've learned. I must like the boomer comedy because all the stuff that my generation loves, I feel like I don't get it. I love to laugh. I grew up watching slapstick and things like that. And so for me, like, I love a good joke. And what's so bothersome about comedy now is that it's so easy to just default to cringe. That's what I feel like Righteous Gemstone season 2 did, was like they had this really interesting, written story with all these crazy twists and turns in the first one. And the second one, they're just like, how can we make this as cringy as possible? And it just was that for all the episodes. And it just gets so extreme and so uncomfortable that it's like, I'm not having fun anymore. Like there's not a payout. It's just left with this feeling of discomfort. And I don't know, man. It's really getting to this point where like, I don't understand why that has become the primary way that people enjoy comedy.
I can feel that. I feel like my personal, like, I guess I'm just too immature. Like, why do I like the immature comedy? Like, I feel like Future Man was hilarious to me, but that definitely was all very immature humor. But I guess that's
dick jokes are funny. Dick jokes are funny. Like, I feel like that's the silly thing, but like even, like, I also feel like when there is cringe and there's a payout or there's some like just dessert or there's something, it's easier. Even with this, them getting caught didn't end the cringe, right? It just kind of dragged it out slower and further and more.
It was crazy that their first boss for the psychiatric break-in, like they got basically said, hey, y'all did a great job. Here's another job. And their boss that was like, what are y'all doing? Got fired. That's hit too close to home on real life, I think.
Well, no, it's exactly what happens when somebody is like, I don't know if we should do this. Well, you're fired. Who will make sure that this gets done? Like, that's definitely the real world.
Are we going to the Holy Wheel?
Yes, sorry.
Shall we approach? Speaking of the wheel, I'd actually like to change my nomination at the last, another October surprise. I just want to switch mine to same as Tony's.
Oh, okay. This is what we're going to do. We're going to say this one's for Jay, and then we'll put a T on this one.
JT?
So that way we keep track of it.
That's the only way I can win these days, is when people double up with me.
The double team.
It's been a long time on the wheel.
All right, well, let's see here. We'll shuffle it up. Well, actually, go ahead. One of you describe Severance, and I'll talk about Death Note in a second.
I did look it up. It is on Apple TV, and I'm guessing it's sci-fi because a company has developed a way to separate the memories from people's working lives and their non-working lives. And as I'm reading this on Wikipedia, it says eventually those two consciousnesses start to diverge because they have such different experiences.
Oh, interesting.
It's supposed to be like a psychological thriller type show, I believe.
That'll be fun. Death Note is an anime. It is a interesting philosophical, I don't know, not really I guess partial psychological, partial spiritual thriller. Like it's got a lot of different paranormal, I guess not spiritual. I think it's gonna raise some interesting philosophical questions for the show. So I think it will be fun to talk about.
It is kind of like a Sherlock versus Moriarty.
It is.
Type
It's got that
thing,
too. It's got a lot of layers, like onions.
Like parfaits.
Like parfaits and onions. All right, here we go. I shuffled it and we spin.
Spin, spin, spin.
Let's spin the McConaughey wheel.
All right. Oh, I won.
Oh, won.
Suck it, Jay.
Didn't even matter. Well, very excited about that. I've actually watched about half of Severance so far, and I have enjoyed it tremendously. So I'm very excited to see what you guys think about it.
Is the second season coming out, or is it already out? I guess we're just doing the first season, right? Or
there's only one out at this time.
It's Adam. What's his name? Right?
Adam Scott.
I am the VP of the biggest executive helicopter leasing company on the Western Seaboard.
Adam Scott. Yeah, I love him.
Yeah, and the Jesus from Big Lebowski. He's also in it.
Oh, excellent.
Christopher Walken. Amazing.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Speaking of, I'm ready for Dune Part 2.
Yeah, me too. Apparently there's also 3 already being talked about, so.
Oh, yeah. Dude, July, I'm pumped. Unfortunately, I heard Indiana Jones isn't that great, but I'm ready for Mission Impossible. I'm ready for Oppenheimer. Even Barbie. I'm going to go see the Barbenheimer.
Ooh.
Are you going to double feature it?
I'm not going to I don't know if they'll double feature it, but I'm going to see both in relatively quick succession.
I saw a picture of like a pink explosion and they were like, Barbieheimer, it's already started.
All right. Well, I'm very excited to hear about that next time. Very excited to talk about Severance with you guys. Very happy to have you with me here today. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
And thank you, Aaron.
You are welcome, sir.
Until next time, I'll be seeing you in the trees.
You think of our executive producer.
214-523-CROW.